This story is based on real events. At the end of the 1990s, a financial crisis tears through Asia, and South Korea gets hit so hard that the government has no choice but to ask the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. One of the biggest names caught in the collapse is Gukbo, the most famous soju maker in the country. Government money alone is not enough. Sitting at the edge of bankruptcy, Gukbo reaches out to Sulken, a global investment and financing group. At Sulken's headquarters, an employee named In takes Gukbo's financial report straight to the board and pushes them to step in. He does not want a company that big, from the country where he was born, to just disappear. He also has a second pitch. Sulken should open a Korean branch immediately before rival firms get there first. Dozens of companies are about to fall, all of them desperate for a lifeline, and whoever shows up with the money will eventually own them. This was the beginning of Big Deal. Back in Korea, reporters are crowding the gates of Gukbo, chasing the story of a giant about to go under. Inside, the CEO, Jin Woo, is furious that the government still has not lifted a finger for him. On top of that, the court has just ruled that Gukbo has to pay off every debt that has come due. That one stings because during the election campaign, Jin Woo poured his own money into supporting the people now in power. His director, Jong Rok, calms him down and steers him back toward finding an actual way out. Soon after, Jin Woo tells his executives the company is not going to die because Gukbo is still the #1 soju producer in Korea, and he wants every worker thinking of ways to save it. He also tells Jong Rok to bring in a legal firm that can shield Gukbo from any gap in the lawsuits. That is how they end up sitting across from Young Mo, the head of the legal team assigned to Gukbo. Young Mo's advice is a composition agreement with the creditors, basically a mediated deal that stretches out the deadline for repaying the debt. The system is new in Korea at the time, and the key detail is this. For as long as the agreement is running, management stays exactly where it is, and nobody from outside can take the company over. Jin Woo has doubts, but he decides to try it and hands the whole matter to Young Mo. On the other side of the world, In lands in South Korea and gets picked up by one of his junior staff, who turns out to be driving his own luxury car. It quietly stings that even the low-level employees here are living better than he expected. At the branch office, he meets Gordon, the man running Sulken's operation on the ground, and gets his own office for as long as the Gukbo business lasts. Gordon reads the report and cannot believe the biggest soju seller in Korea is this close to bankruptcy. Whatever the reason, he tells In to work as hard as it takes to take the company over. The next day, In and Gordon walk into Gukbo with their team to discuss a partnership that is supposedly going to save the business. Young Mo lays out the numbers. Gukbo will be carrying 2 trillion won in debt unless it cuts loose the subsidiaries that are bleeding money. Then comes the condition. Sulken has to sign an NDA first, a binding confidentiality contract, because every internal file the company owns is about to be handed over. Jong Rok warns Jin Woo not to rush into it. Jin Woo does not listen. He trusts Young Mo completely. A week later, the NDA is signed, and Sulken has access to everything. In immediately builds his strategy around a shell company called Stone Investment, quietly buying Gukbo's bonds at a bargain price. Give it a few years, and the company falls into their hands without a fight. The meetings continue week after week, and neither Jin Woo nor Jong Rok suspects a thing. Jong Rok even invites In out to the production plant to show him how the finest alcohol in South Korea gets made, talking about how Gukbo survived every hard season by protecting its quality. Somewhere in all of that, the two men actually become close. Jong Rok drags In and the Sulken staff out drinking almost every night, soju from midnight until sunrise, and In goes along with it because every glass brings him closer to owning the company. Sometime later, the debt composition gets approved, and Gukbo has 5 years to clear what it owes. The catch is that wages have to be cut while production goes up, so the profit goes straight back into the debt. Jong Rok pushes back hard on the pay cuts, but the decision is not his to make. Then Jin Woo pulls Jong Rok aside with a request of his own. He wants a shell company registered under Jong Rok's name, funded by asset sales, quietly buying Gukbo bonds. He calls it insurance. If the company ever goes under and changes hands, Jin Woo still holds a piece of it and can cash out later when the price climbs. Jong Rok refuses at first because it is deeply unethical and could blow up on both of them, but the pressure never stops, and he does what he is told. In is running his own bond-buying plan at the same time, and the returns are coming fast enough that he considers the takeover as good as done. Not long after, Jong Rok takes him out for a meal, and that is where they hear the rumor. Jinwoo has been gambling on the golf course, hundreds of millions of won in a single day. The public reaction is brutal because taxpayer money is propping up Gukbo while the man at the top throws it away on bets. By the next morning, there are protesters outside the head office demanding he step down. Jinwoo is mostly annoyed that the noise wrecked his schedule, so he cancels his meetings and goes off to cool his head. Then he and In watch Jong-rok walk out and face the crowd himself, purely because he cares what this is doing to Jinwoo.
회장님.
최 팀장이 이해해요.
That moment stays with In. An hour later, as he is heading back to America, Jong-rok catches him with a bag of souvenirs and tells him Gukbo is clearly getting stronger with Sulken's help. In carries that home, and it sits badly against everything he is actually doing. 5 years pass and nothing improves. The repayment deadline is closing in. Jinwoo has run out of answers, and overseas branches are already selling shares to outsiders just to cover what they owe. Jong-rok flies out with the Japanese branch to sell that arm of the business. The contracts are practically on the table when the news lands. Gukbo Hong Kong has filed a lawsuit claiming ownership of Gukbo Japan, which freezes the sale completely. Jong-rok is livid that a branch of their own company would do this. Then he learns the detail that changes everything. The creditor representative behind Gukbo Hong Kong is Sulken. Jinwoo turns on Jong-rok for trusting these people. Because the real objective is now obvious. Sulken never wanted to rescue anything. They wanted control of the entire management. Jong-rok goes to see In face-to-face, still unable to accept it. In does not care and never did. Money was the only thing on the table, and the friendship never changed that. That night, Gordon and the staff celebrate, already certain the court will rule in Sulken's favor. In is the only one not celebrating, still thinking about Jong-rok, even though he did all of this for his own ambition. On the other side, Jinwoo, Jong-rok, and Young-mo meet to work out how to beat the lawsuit. Young-mo tells them the only path left is proving Sulken violated the NDA. Then Jinwoo tells Jong-rok to buy up as many Gukbo bonds as he possibly can, because he has already given up on the rest. If the company goes bankrupt and gets sold to foreigners, he plans to walk away with 10 billion won in his pocket, even if he never sits in that office again. Publicly, though, he and Jong-rok launch a Save Gukbo campaign, hoping public sympathy will convince the creditors the company still has a future. The next day, In gets his hands on proof that Jinwoo embezzled company funds to finance a presidential campaign. He plans to use it to put the man in prison and push the creditors toward declaring Gukbo bankrupt. Gordon says it is not enough. He wants to flip Gukbo's own legal team, meaning Young-mo, and speed the takeover up. In objects because that breaks attorney regulations and will eventually come back on them, but Gordon figures big rewards are worth big risks. So Sulken offers Young-mo a partnership in the top seat on their legal team, and he takes it. The way he sees it, his firm needs a relationship with whoever owns the company next. He resigns from Gukbo's side and effectively hands the whole thing over. A week later, the first hearing begins, with Gukbo represented by a brand new legal team. Their lawyer argues the company can still survive and that the workers are still turning out the best soju in the country. Sulken pushes for bankruptcy and management control, insisting that is the only way Gukbo will ever be profitable again. Then their lawyer goes after Jinwoo personally, on the embezzlement and on the rumor that he has been buying his own company's bonds under another name. Jinwoo has heard enough and walks out, with Jong-rok right behind him. The moment they are alone, he tears into him, demanding to know how Sulken found out about the bonds and blaming a leak inside Young-mo's team. He orders Jong-rok to counter-sue for violating attorney regulations and tells him in the cruelest words he can find that if he is not willing, he should not bother coming back.
이거 제대로 이용해야 돼. 명백한 불법. 악명만 아는 정보를 그 새끼들이 어떻게 이건 잡을 수 있다고? 표이사, 네가 알아쳐, 좋은 새끼.
That night, Jong-rok sits alone trying to work out how to prove Young-mo's team sold their secrets. He keeps circling back to the same regret. He believed in how brilliant In was when the man was playing him the entire time. He calls In and asks him for one thing. If the takeover goes through, In has to guarantee the workers and run the place properly. In will not promise it, because making money comes first and always will. Jong-rok keeps at him, cursing him out and begging him never to fire anyone, and In stays unmoved. Then Jong-rok runs out of words. By morning, he still has not slept. He is standing on the roof of the factory, blaming himself for all of it, and he cannot hold it anymore. That same morning, Inbeom sits in a meeting going over the profit Sulken stands to make from selling Gukbo off. He is quiet, still hearing Yongrok's voice from the night before. Nobody else notices. They are fixed on the number 3.2 billion US dollars, and because Inbeom delivered it, the company names him head of Sulken's Korean office. Meanwhile, Jin-woo is at the hospital because Yongrok survived. He scolds him for being so stupid, tells him the organ damage means surgery immediately, and then gets to what is really bothering him, which is the money sitting inside the shell company registered in Yongrok's name. Yongrok says nothing. He nearly died, and his boss is worried about the funds. That night, Inbeom calls him. He says he was worried, and then he says something nobody expects. He has changed his mind, and he is going to help Gukbo win. His instruction is specific. Have Gukbo's lawyer demand that Sulken produce the list of creditors who agreed to the bankruptcy, because that list will expose Youngmo's team as the ones who leaked the company data. Inbeom's reason is simple enough. He can accept a lot of things, but not legal professionals breaking the law themselves. A little later, Inbeom walks into Youngmo's office to quietly set the trap that will get his team sanctioned. Youngmo very nearly catches on, but Inbeom keeps it clean and pulls his attention away by asking for a private word. A week after that, the hearing resumes, and Gukbo's lawyer produces the creditor list exactly as Inbeom described. The judge checks it and finds the match. Then, instead of ruling, he postpones the session to verify the document further. The next day, Inbeom visits Yongrok before the surgery. He still cannot understand a man who would do anything for a company, especially when Jin-woo never once treated him well, and he asks what Yongrok is even chasing. Yongrok turns it back on him, telling him he has spent his whole career being used as a tool when he could have built something real instead of doing everything the dirty way. That conviction is what finally breaks Inbeom. He offers Yongrok a job once Gukbo changes hands, and Yongrok refuses on the spot because he is not going to be paid out of dirty money. Then Inbeom shows him the real reason Gukbo is never going to win this case. He, Youngmo, and the presiding judge have been working together the entire time, and he tells Yongrok to get to the judge so the ruling can finally be an honest one, and Gukbo can survive. The following day, Jin-woo is arrested for embezzling company funds. Yongrok goes to the station and hands over the photograph Inbeom gave him, and Jin-woo is delighted to finally see who conspired to bury his company. Yongrok warns him not to take the photo into the courtroom and to use it as leverage against the judge instead. Jin-woo refuses. He wants all of it dragged into the open. A week later, in court, Gukbo hands the photograph straight to the judge. Yongrok stays silent, knowing full well how badly this could land on Inbeom. The judge's face changes the instant he sees it, and the session is postponed again. Afterward, Yongrok tries to reach Inbeom to apologize for the photo getting out, and instead spots him in a quiet conversation with Gordon. Here is the truth. Inbeom handed over that photo on purpose to humiliate the judge in public. He is betting the man will never step back and will rule for Sulken anyway, because the system is rotten enough to let him. Gordon can hardly believe how far Inbeom is willing to go. When the trial resumes, the exposed judge has been replaced. Yongrok lets himself hope the claim gets thrown out with so much evidence on the table. Instead, the new judge accepts the lawsuit, and Gukbo is declared bankrupt and taken over by Sulken. As the courtroom empties, Inbeom walks over to Yongrok first. He says he will take a punch if Yongrok wants to throw one, though it will not change anything. But Yongrok is not angry. He is just disappointed, and he finally understands who Inbeom has been all along. Before leaving, Inbeom tells him to go find a purpose bigger than serving a company. That night, Sulken throws a party for the takeover. Gordon thanks everyone who fought to win Gukbo, then asks the room for a round of applause for the person who made it happen. Inbeom is ready with his speech, and Gordon praises Youngmo instead, calling him the architect of the whole plan. Inbeom slips into the restroom to pull himself together, humiliated and unrecognized after everything he did. Then the judge walks in and tells him he knows exactly who leaked the photo and makes it clear there will be consequences for embarrassing him. Inbeom steps out and finds the prosecutors already waiting. He is arrested on the spot for embezzlement and intimidation, and he barely says a word, because a few hours earlier he was on top of the world. Later in detention, he gets a visit from Gordon, who explains exactly why he is in there. Leaking that photograph was the one thing the company could not forgive. Gordon still promises him his bonus, though it will be waiting 6 months for as long as Inbeom is locked up. Meanwhile, Yongrok meets Jin-woo to discuss how the two of them will work together going forward. He mentions the bonds are now worth 230 billion won, and Jin-woo is thrilled. He lost the company, but he is still rich and getting richer. Except the shell company holding all of it is registered under Yongrok's name. Jongrok tells him he has finished working for him and that he will be using every bit of that money to start his own business. Jinwoo explodes and Jongrok gives it straight back to him because the man has been nothing but greedy for years and never valued a single thing Jongrok did for him.
씨발 그 모르는 거야. 멍청한 새끼야. 조진을 까라이쇼. 돌대가리 새끼야. 일어나. 할 말이 있어. 야, 이거 떼좀 어떻게?
A month later, Sulken sells Gukbo for $3.4 billion US, and Gordon is over the moon. 2 years later, Jongrok opens his own soju distillery and hires the workers who lost their jobs at Gukbo. He is the main investor, but he is on the floor with everyone else, making sure the quality is right. And then Inbeom shows up. Jongrok does not waste any time before telling him to taste what he made. The two of them sit and talk in the Korean countryside, and Inbeom is genuinely happy to see him healthy and finally living for something of his own. As for Inbeom, he is heading to Hong Kong to sue Sulken over everything they did. He understands now that the company pushed him into becoming that person, and he intends to make them answer for it. And that is where this story, taken from real events, comes to an end. So the moral of the story is, if your boss tells you to commit crimes for the company, start updating your resume, not your loyalty.